I was never been a big fan of country music per se, you know. I've tended to, if you get any of my CDs or even hear the Helicasters, we all have that country technique, but we utilize, I mean, we basically, we utilize that style in a lot of different music forms, you know. I do it even in blues, you know, and jazz and even rock. It's amazing how you can do that and create a totally different sound, because typically rock players, when they're playing a certain way, will play with a lot of overdrive, and they'll play single notes, you know, and play them fast. But it's amazing what you can do with bends and with sometimes double stops and so on, even in a real funky kind of number, you know, that doesn't suggest a country technique. But if you go ahead and use it, it's like, man, oh man, that's wild stuff, you know? It's just stuff that you wouldn't expect. You know, like the Behind the Nut Bend thing I got from Jerry McGee. My whole life changed when I saw him do this at age 14. In this club that I heard him play. I got my dad to get me in there. He talked to the manager, and he very kindly allowed us to go in. Said, put your son sit over there in the corner with your son, tell him to behave himself, and, you know, give him a Coke. You know? It's like, so he said, yeah, my son just wants to hear you guitar player. And so we got in, and I was just sitting there in awe of this guy. And he was doing a banjo tune called Scruggs, what was it called? Flint Hill Special was Earl Scruggs tune. And have you heard of Scruggs pegs? You probably have. Of course, you've heard of everything working as you do. But they're basically tuning pegs that are presets. You know, like a string bender is preset to a semitone or a full tone. One of these was set to, I guess, the one that's, it would be at a different key though on a banjo, but in this case, it's like the B string going up a full tone, because he did it in the key of A, so he's like alternating between E and A. And he didn't have Scruggs pegs on a telly, which he was playing, so he was trying to figure out what he could do. He thought, how can I emulate that sound? So he just thought of like bending the note up from behind the nut to go. And I watched him do that, and it was like my brain exploded or something. I don't know what happened. It just had such an immediate and profound impact on me. Everybody else is talking in there, having a beer, taking no notice at all. And here's this 14-year-old kid sitting there whose life had just changed at that very moment, you know? He had no idea. It was just absolutely, it's like 100 years ago, but I can still recall that image of seeing, I can still see him reach across doing that and the effect that it had on me. It was like he was going into forbidden territory or something. I don't know what I was thinking, but he was going, here's a guy that had learned, you know, to play classical guitar, and you had to play a specific way. You know, your foot had to be on a stool. You had to be like this. Mustn't show the thumb. The thumb has to be hidden behind the board at all times. So even playing electric guitar and showing my thumb, I was already being pretty wild. But to see somebody do this was outrageous, to go across into this forbidden or, you know, uncharted territory and make it sound so awesome like that. Anyway, my dad we went and saw him on a break. My dad introduced me to him and said, my son is a big fan of your playing, and we live just a couple of blocks away from here. Is there any time maybe during the week that you might be able to come an hour early and give my son some lessons? And he agreed, and he came over. It's the first thing I wanted him to show me was all of this. I learned a great deal from him because, first of all, he told me about the Black Diamond strings, which were the only strings that weren't like barge cables. You know, it's like they were really, really heavy back in those days. So they were... No, but they still came with a wound G, so what he would do is throw away the G and use two B strings. You know, you just couldn't get, you know, the light gauge sets that you get today, or actually shortly thereafter. It was only within a few years, but we're talking the early 60s. They all came, whether they were acoustic strings or electric strings. Guitar strings came with a wound third, that was it. And actually, it was hard even to find. I don't think you even had round wound strings then. They were all tape wound, flat wound. But anyway, so I was all set up with his guitar strings, you know, the whole thing, and he showed me how to do this particular lick. And I practiced all week, and when he came back the next lesson, he was very satisfied with my progress. I was pretty much in tune. And I said, show me some more of those bends. I was ready to learn more. He said, oh, I don't do any more. It was just a means to an end. You know, I was doing a banjo tune. I had to emulate the Scruggs Pegs sound, and it was the only thing I could figure, you know, the only way I could figure a way around it, you know. And to him, it was no big deal, you know. To me, it was. Anyway, shortly after that, I moved to England, and now I had this right setup, and I thought, you know, I soon learned that I could do that on the G as well, like across an A chord, this is what this was too. So if I went, I thought that was kind of, and then to play the E note that's fretted on the, you know, the D string on the second fret. One time by accident I was going for the G string, but inadvertently hit the D string, so I was, you know, that started to go up like that, which was already fretted, and I'm doing a bend with the fretted note, and I thought it wasn't in tune, but I thought it gave me the idea. I thought with a little extra pressure, because obviously a heavier string than the G. You know, it's kind of neat. And after a while, I got into double bends. Yeah. You know, just going back and forth between and even on the top string. Or, if you want a minor, you know, you just change the pressure of the pivot, you know.